Hello, friends, and welcome to Activate and Thrive and to our weekly Thriving Thursday chat, where we chat with different, beautiful, health-minded people about many different areas of health, wellness, and just overall thriving in life. We run these chats every Thursday at noon East Coast US time, and we run them here live on Facebook on our page. We also post them on YouTube. So whichever platform you're watching from, whether live or later, welcome to our special pre-Thanksgiving edition of our Thriving Thursday chats. My name is Don.
And I'm Mia. And our guest today is our beautiful friend, Heidi Biever. Heidi is a lover of life. There's just no better way to say it. She's been raised in a home that celebrated the arts. She enjoys singing, dancing, visual art, and theater. And teaching is a great love of Heidi's, and she is a beautiful teacher. She joyfully heads up Singing on Stage in State College, PA. It's a musical theater program for children. And Heidi lives with her theater-loving husband, Richard Beaver, high school senior Olivia Beaver, and loves hanging out with her two adult children, Madeline and Marshall, at every opportunity. Gratitude and time for spiritual contemplation are central to Heidi's day. It's her DMO, along with walking among the trees with her Tibetan terrier, Oliver. And Don and I had the great fortune of meeting Heidi and her husband, Rich, many moons ago when we all lived in New York City together and we were all in theater. And, our relationships have just blossomed over the years. We're family. Our kids have grown up together. So, Heidi, welcome. We are just delighted to have you with us today. Will you just tell our audience a little bit just about you and how long you have been consciously, shall we say, practicing gratitude?
Sure, Mia. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on this program today. It's truly,
We're so happy.
Fascinating. And also thank you for the time and the commitment you put into having this program every Thursday and just sending out all these wonderful thoughts into the universe for people to learn from and grow from and be encouraged by. So thank you to both of you. I will say that Don and Mia have been lifelong friends, or I shouldn't say lifelong, although it feels like it, right?
It does.
It really almost feels like it.
Life. Yeah, it's my entire adult life. And it's interesting. I will often turn to these two individuals when I'm having an especially joyful moment because they have this incredible ability to celebrate gratitude and joy. And so I know that I can get on the phone and be like, guess what? And they will go there with me. So it's really fantastic, right? It's fantastic to have friends that can express that feeling of joy and wonder about life. So, pardon me, great question. I like looking back on my life, and especially I've been looking at family photos as I progress into life, looking back at my mom and dad who have both now passed. So having a sense of intense gratitude for the gifts they gave me and how I want to continue their legacy. And there's a picture of me. I should have brought it. Oh my gosh.
I wish you had.
Later. But there's a picture of me. We're at like a family dinner. And everyone is sort of, I would say I was about 8 years old. And everyone's just like nicely sitting, at this table and we're at some function. And I'm just sitting there like beaming for no reason. I'm just so in this photo, I'm like, what is going on with this little girl? And I was just, head cocked to the side, and I was just so happy to be there. And so I think back often on that photo of like, it's within us. The seeds of happiness and gratitude are right there within us. But it is a practice. You do have to cultivate it. Through the years, I've really had fun watching others who are really good at the gratitude practice and just drawing on certain things that spike my interest. For instance, a number of years ago, I was really struck by Princess Di and her example of writing handwritten thank you notes. So, you can imagine, I think there was something like 47,000 thank you notes that went out after her wedding. And apparently she had a hand on most of them. And she also had this very strict standard of within 24 hours. And so I always think of that, like when something happens that really sparks my gratitude, someone does something for me, or I have an encounter, I want to make sure that I acknowledge that experience within 24 hours, because it just blossoms it. It doesn't just let it slide on by. I'm showing gratitude. I'm showing deep appreciation for whatever had happened there. So she was one person that early on really struck me as, using gratitude in her daily life, even though we know she had many, many challenges. She kept that up.
We just watched recently the CNN program with her, and just the people loved her so much.
Oh my
so
gosh.
yeah.
Oh my gosh. So, I think a lot of that had to do with what was going on inside of her, her ability to focus on what was important amidst challenges we can't imagine. So, she was an incredible role model. Another person that was an incredible role model to me very early on. I was 19 years old and I met the actress Jodie Benson. She's the voice of Ariel in Disney's Little Mermaid. And I met her at a time when I was just starting out in show business and pretty on my high horse. And I was cast as her understudy in a show in Cleveland. And wow, she made an incredible impact on me. She knew every person's name backstage, the wig and makeup people. She made sure to address everyone by name. When she got to the theater, she would walk around and talk to people, find out how their day was going. Did they have any issues? Like, did they need some tea? She was just incredibly generous as a presence in the theater. And of course, that was 6 months before she was cast as the Little Mermaid. So I had that experience of going through that with her and finding out that news that she was going to be voicing Ariel. And then she spent the last, 30 years showing deep gratitude both to the Disney company and to her fans. She spent hours and hours and hours exchanging gratitude, either through letter, meeting with fans. I mean, she has an insatiable quality of expressing gratitude to those that support her and enjoy what she does. So she was like, that was mind-blowing to me, to meet this person who'd been on Broadway. And then all of a sudden I was like, wow, she's incredibly humble and she's very cautious, she's very conscious about caring and expressing gratitude for others. So that's something that stayed with me to this day. And I love telling that story because, it wasn't about meeting somebody famous. It was about meeting someone who had a character that impacted my character. So that was really
absolutely. Oh, I love that. Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah, I've met her too on an occasion, actually with you and Rich in New York. And she's a rare bird, actually. She's just very, very special.
She has a stamina, and I think that's what gratitude, we think, why do we practice gratitude? Like, is it just positive thinking? Is it just words? But I was looking up just in researching some things for our time today. There's a great article from the Daily Health Post. It's an editorial, and it says, neuroscience reveals gratitude literally rewires your brain to be happier.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so we know that to be true, but I love that the neuroscientists are studying it. And they did a case study where they took a number of individuals and gave them a journal, and their task was to write down gratitude on a regular basis. And then the other people, the poor people, I felt bad for the other side. They had to write down in their journal all the things that they wanted to criticize or things that were bothering them. And so it doesn't mean, again, you don't process things that are on your mind or things you're struggling with. I'm not saying that, but of course the case study was just specifically, how does gratitude affect your health, your mental health, everything, your kind of your trajectory through your day. And of course,
absolutely.
Very dramatic results.
You're kind of answering the question that I was going to ask, thinking about Jodie Benson and probably even Princess Diana. What is happening to these people who are so committed to showing their gratitude? What is happening to them when they do that? And what do you imagine is happening to them if they don't do it, if they don't show the gratitude?
Well,
or feel it.
I think that's a great question, Don, because it's a slippery slope. Albert Einstein, who's another person I just revere, he was told to give gratitude 100 times a day. 100 times a day. Wow. If you do the math, that's every 10 minutes. He would stop what he was doing. And I've been attempting to do that and put that into my practice. You kind of either I set a timer or I start to just program my thinking to, it's just, you have to catch yourself, because I love likening it to getting into an elevator. And the button you push, you can't go to 2 floors at once. You can't go to floor 12 and floor 21. So you choose. And so when you get in that, it's like that stopping yourself every 10 minutes. It's doing a double check. Which floor am I headed to? And so I see gratitude as a bridge or a pathway to a more enlightened day. And of course, it's going to affect your mental health, your levels of stress, your physical health, your eating habits, your emotion, your relationships, your finances. It's going to affect everything. And so gratitude is this very powerful tool to get you moving to the floor on the elevator that you want to go to.
Oh, yeah, that is powerful. Yeah. I mean, it just affects those neurons in our brain, and that affects everything else.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to ask you a question, Heidi.
Sure.
So when somebody is really struggling, or somebody's really gone through a horrible life event, do you think that at those moments that they can find gratitude, and that gratitude has the power to transform that very negative, difficult time into a positive? And could you possibly give an example of that in your own life?
Sure. I was just wanting to look at, there's some things. Now, of course, anything you're trying to practice that's healthy for you, you do have to watch out for the things that are roadblocks that are going to get in the way of that practice, and not be surprised if they come along. Like, oh, I'm doing, I'm working so hard at this. Why am I suddenly tempted to, blow my nutrition or whatever you're doing to bring health into your life? So there's some things that you definitely want to look to avoid. Because gratitude's about, of course, your mental health, which feeds into everything. But there's some qualities. So like criticizing, complaining, comparing, and then this last one I want to bring out in relation to what your question was, which is condemning, which sounds very formal and final. But I think when we do something we regret and we're in a dark place, and again, that can be something you've done financially, it can be in a relationship, it can be in relation to your health. There's a lot of condemning that we do to ourselves. And I was in a situation where I got into a very difficult relationship situation. And I had a real struggle pulling myself out of it. It was very back and forth, and I just couldn't get it together. But the moment I kind of woke up and was ready to put into practice the things that I needed to get out of a toxic situation, gratitude was absolutely the thing, because again, it's the bridge. It's the bridge. It's not going to solve my problems, but it's going to put me in a mindset where I can solve my problems. Yeah. So it's going to give me that bridge, because if I just stay in that place of like, I am a horrible human being. Look at what I've done. Look at this wake of like, trauma and bad feelings that I've left through this relationship situation. How do you get out of that? How do you pull out of that? Well, it's interesting. Another thing that I wanted to bring up, one of our favorite holiday movies is based on the Christmas Carol, A Christmas Carol, Dickens' A Christmas Carol, and it's from the 70s, and it is embodied by Albert Finney. He plays Scrooge, and I can't wait till we get to the final scene, because here's a man who has severed every relationship in his life. His life is desolate, right? He hates his community. He sings a song in this movie called "I Hate People."
Mm-hmm. I love that song. Not that I love the message, but
yeah. Oh my gosh. And then, everyone hates him, and all he's doing is, taking, there's a lot of havoc wreaked in this community because of him and through it. So the first thing that they do to try to transform this very muddy, dusty state of living is to give him the milk of human kindness. The milk of human kindness. So for me, in my situation where I was just in this horrible place and I couldn't see any good in my life, people were kind to me. It was amazing. Like, I couldn't believe it. I almost felt like I didn't deserve it, even though I'm a kind and happy person on the whole. And I do that all the time for people. I almost thought I didn't deserve people's kindness because I was such a bad person. But that's what started, like, people's kindness. Then, of course, if you watch that movie, it's a perfect example of how you get from A to Z. And then it started to wake him up. He realized what he had done, how he had treated people, and he wanted to reform. He wanted to make a difference. And then at the very end, when he finally kind of pulls it all together, he's in a very, like, you know, he's supposed to be, they put him in this grave and he thinks he's in hell. And it's just like this really dramatic situation where he thinks there's no way out, which is how I felt. He wakes up. And what does he do? You know, instead of being all tucked in and all angry, he just throws open the curtains. He starts throwing things in the air. He slides down his banister. He throws open the door, you know, takes out his money, buys a turkey, goes to the Cratchit house. It's like, that is the key. Gratitude, I know you all feel this. When you have it in your heart, it just makes you want to do things. It makes you want to write thank you notes and send gifts and do better with your nutrition. You know, all those things. So it enlivens you.
Yeah, it does.
I love that story because that's what happened to me. And then, you know, I was able to through a lot of prayer and a lot of help, I attend a weekly gratitude meeting through an organization in my town, which is just key to my success. It's like halfway through the week, once a week, you know, I have this gratitude meeting that I go to. So
I love that.
It took a lot of work. It took a lot of, like, you know, pulling myself out of that dark place over and over and over and leaning on people I knew would be there for me. But I made it. I'm here.
Yes, you did. You know, but what? Yay! What if we're grateful. What if it's not something that you particularly have gotten yourself into, but something that happens to you, you know, and you're that innocent person, but something is like you've experienced loss, unexpected loss. Then how do you get to that bridge that you're speaking about when you're in that pit of despair and your heart is broken?
Well, and I think it's that's why I love Einstein. He doesn't let 10 minutes go by. I think the way we lose ourselves in whatever area, again, financial, nutrition, exercise, relationships, we lose it with this subtle kind of drifting over here. And before you know it, you're completely in the wrong place. And so I love that Einstein, you know, for him to develop all these things that he's really having to release, he was developing things that no one had ever, he had no roadmap. So he had to constantly go back to what he considered a higher source. And I think that's why we do it, because he was feeling connected to something that was going to help him. And I think ultimately gratitude is not about just making your life better or easier, but it's about a connectedness. Because when you're not grateful, you're cut off. You hate everyone, you hate everything, you hate your life. And so the connectedness, and I love practicing this. My family laughs at me, but I love talking to service people on the phone, you know, like calling up Disney Vacation Club and setting up our vacation, or talking to my plumber. That I love that connectedness because it can be just a rote thing, you know, calling Verizon. But one thing I always do, I try to, is when I'm done, I ask for their manager to come on the line to thank them for their excellent customer service.
Wow.
Even if it hasn't been that great, I like to do it anyway, because I think I have no idea what that person's going through on the other end.
You really don't.
And the sound of their voice changes. It's so cool. I'm like, can I talk to your manager and just compliment? And they're like, you know, and they get all playful, their voice changes. And I think, okay, you know, we've connected and we've sent out an animus, a perfume of gratitude into the world that needs it so desperately.
Absolutely. If we want to make the world better, it's about, sometimes I think it's about when you're in that busy state. We're all so busy, right?
Yeah.
And when we get so busy, we don't take the time for those precious moments to make a difference.
And Mia, you're so right. It just takes a moment. And I know, you know, Dawn is really good at this. I always appreciated Dawn's ability to take a breath. And Dawn is one of the most humble people I know, because, you know, Dawn is so clear and sure about how he thinks and who he is. But I've never seen anybody change so fast on a dime. Like, Dawn is so humble, and he can take that breath and just go, you're right. Or, wow, I didn't see it that way. Or, wow, that really gives me something valuable. And that's, a musician has to do that all the time. You're constantly connecting to that thing that the composer, who may be long gone and can't inform you. So it's a connectedness. And I love that with the two of you. I always feel that so strongly when we talk or get together.
Thank you. Let me ask you, you mentioned a few minutes ago, 4 C's. I made a note of them, but I'm missing one of them: criticizing, complaining,
I
condemning.
don't agree. Okay. Let me say complaining.
Yeah.
All these separate you from gratitude, or that bridge to having a life that's inspired. Criticizing, comparing,
comparison.
That was
the thief of joy.
Odious, right? Thank you, Shakespeare.
So that was the one. And what I wanted to ask, I better write that down. Comparing. Okay. These are things that we do routinely.
Yes.
People do routinely: criticize, complain, condemn, or compare. I think 3 of them are kind of slightly aggressive, right? Criticize, complain, and condemn. Comparing sometimes is not necessarily aggressive, but it's a negative quality, but it seems more innocent in the sense you're saying, well, I don't know, that person's way better than I am, or you might be the other way around. I'm much better than that person. Either way, but anyway, my question is, these are just such standard parts of so many people's days. I'm not going to say I'm free of these things 100%. How do we start to free ourselves from them, especially if we know it's a trait that we have and it is blocking us from feeling a sense of gratitude in our lives? What little steps can we be taking to start freeing ourselves from these 4 C's?
Yeah. Well, the first thing is just being aware of them. And you have to cultivate a consciousness that counteracts this, a consciousness of gratitude, a consciousness of oneness, a consciousness of goodness. Because really, gratitude is about finding good, right? It's like, wow, that was a really cool conversation I just had with Verizon. They saved me $5 on my bill. And he was really funny to talk to. I'm recognizing the good I had in that phone call. So what you want to do, yes. So the thing that's going to pull you out is, first of all, realize, like, that happens to me all the time, Don. I laugh. Like, I will go, what did I just spend the last 10 minutes brooding over? Like, it is ridiculous how easily it tries to slip us into that way of thinking. And you know what's a great, like, again, don't condemn yourself. But someone told me once that a pilot flying a plane is 90% of the time off course. And so they're constantly like doing little course corrections, and they get you there, and they don't get on the intercom and go, I'm so sorry, you guys, but I was 90% of the time I was off course. Their job is to course correct and get you there safely. So yes, we're not going to condemn ourselves for constantly having these awful thoughts. They're not really ours. It's sort of like the TV in the background. And I think the less we can identify ourselves with the TV in the background, I'm trying to really, part of my spiritual practice, part of my daily like meditations and spiritual practice is to recognize my source, to recognize goodness in me and amplify that my life is here to be doing that. And so those voices I want to like shut down as quickly as I can, and understand they're not just a natural part of me. If anything, they're unnatural. I find them to be highly unnatural.
Yeah.
And what we need to learn as a society, I think, is how to combat them. We just accept that they're there. And I think programs like what you do and how you're living your life is saying, wait a minute, I do not accept this as natural. I accept goodness as the way I want to live my life. And we're going to work hard and support one another in this practice of shutting that off and amplifying what we want to see.
Well, that is such a beautiful example, because if you think about, your dog or your children, you're not going to let anything hurt them. You're not going to let anything in that's going to cause anything to go wrong for them, right? But do we do that same thing for ourselves? Are we aware enough to really guard our own thought and, take the time to be still and make sure that we're not going to let in any intrusive negativity?
Well, and that kind of goes with what I was just about to say, because what you said when we first asked, how can someone start to free themselves from these things, is, well, you have to be aware of them in the first place. And the thing is, I mean, how many people have gotten so used to this just being their daily modus operandi: criticize, complain, condemn, compare, and somehow you think you're justified in this because what you have to say or think is right. I see this isn't right. And so you think you're somehow making the world better by doing these 4 C's. And so I mean, I guess to be aware of it, but there are people who wouldn't even stop to think that they should.
Right. Well, it's interesting, Don, because they've proven that state of mind is actually addictive. It produces a chemical reaction in your body to get angry, to have, these kinds of reactions about yourself or others. It literally creates a chemical response in your body.
Mm-hmm.
So, not surprisingly, we seek out situations. It's so weird. Why would we do that? But we do seek out situations where we can be critical of others, where we can condemn others, where we can compare. And what was the other one? Criticize, condemn, right. Compare, complain. Oh my gosh, and the thing, oh my gosh, there's so many people that I love, but Rhonda Byrne is a gratitude specialist, and she's written a number of books and has a whole practice that she supports the world. And she calls them thought shifters. So she talks about examples where she's in a conversation with someone who's complaining or being super critical of someone. And she will either excuse herself from the conversation, just leave, or she will find a way to shift the conversation by saying, but ... So she makes a really conscious choice of what she takes in her conversations, in her surround, because she finds it affects everything about her life. Super important. So I think, Don, that we have to train ourselves. I think this kind of education is the most important education. And I have a theater school, and in the summer times when I have the kids all day, we start with this awesome gratitude exercise, and we go around and talk about it. I say, okay, everybody, you got to think of one thing. It can be a person, like your mom or dad or whomever, Mary Poppins, a place like your bedroom or your synagogue or Disney World. It can be a thing like your favorite stuffed animal, or it can be a quality like kindness or confidence or courage. And it's so cool to hear what comes out of their mouths. Oh my gosh. Adorable. So it's like, it's a practice. It's something we teach one another and we cultivate. And I say, like, no better person than Fred Rogers for this. Fred
Rogers, absolutely.
Fred Rogers.
Oh, I know. Seriously, that man, what a contribution to our world. He made it a better place. He certainly did. And he really stood up for children and the innocence,
it's
just
amazing. And the fact that, I mean, his impact, there's an amazing documentary. Okay. I think it's Won't You Be My Neighbor? I think that's what it's called.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh. And they interview, the people that now run his organization, and they interview his staff and of course his wife. But, he considered us all children of God. Yeah. All children of God. And that's how he saw everyone. It didn't matter what their age was. He had this incredible lens of when he saw someone, he saw a child of God, and that like washes over you. You can't help but have it, and he felt a very specific personal connection to the child on the other end of the camera. He talks about that. Like, I think that's so special. He wasn't performing for the camera. Like he was talking to not only the children, but the grownups that he knew were in the room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, that's
right. And then he did that amazing practice of going to graduations with, people entering adulthood. And what do you know? They would have this moment of silence to give gratitude for someone who was responsible for them being there.
Wow.
So I thought we could even do that today.
Oh, let's do it.
And we'll need to bring it to an end with that. That's a great way to end.
Gosh,
Unfortunately, at our time, but
I don't even want to end. We could go on and on.
It's an infinite subject,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, let's tie it up with that.
And if you have a little timer, he usually did. I think he did 3 minutes, but let's just do a minute. Can we do 1 minute?
Yeah. Yes.
And what exactly are we doing for this?
That we're grateful for. Do you have a timer?
Yes, I can keep time. What exactly are we doing for this minute?
So this is, we're honoring the practice that Fred Rogers did. Was he would do this at graduations and other places too. He would take 1 minute of silence and ask everyone to think of someone they're grateful for that really helped them to get to where they are today.
Let's take 1 moment. Let's take 15 seconds or so to think of somebody that we're grateful for.
And then a minute to do it, right?
Well,
no, you can, however, let's do 30 seconds. We'll just
Okay.
take 30 seconds of silence.
good.
And during that 30 seconds, you're gonna just think of the person will come to your mind that you want to just express gratitude for.
Good. Well, that's beautiful. We had one of our attendees on this chat, Eldon, has just said, "My mother that is in heaven." So thank you, Eldon, so much for thinking of her and for thinking of her at this moment and for sharing that with us. That's beautiful.
Who did you think of, Dawn? Do you want to tell? Do you want to?
Well, I'm going to say, like Eldon, I thought of my mother also.
Great.
Yeah,
Great.
So maybe it's the first place one might go, but that's certainly where I went.
Me
So-
too.
Did you think of your mom?
So
that's
Eldon, Mia,
great.
and Dawn all thinking about our mothers.
Oh, that's great. And I actually I think of my mom all the time, but I thought of my grandmother who
Oh,
raised my dad in such a beautiful way, and how her legacy of love and care is just everywhere. So I thought,
Yes. Well, I'm just thanking Eldon
Oh.
right here for having
Eldon.
shared that. I hope I said your name properly. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us today, Heidi. And, at this season, since we're going to be taking a week off ourselves next Thursday, Thanksgiving Day, from these Thriving Thursday chats, we wanted to get the gratitude Thanksgiving chat in for today.
oh.
And so, as we come into that season, let's just remember that gratitude is real. It's not just a cliche. It's truly something to practice all year round. And perhaps we think extra about it at this season, but it's something we need each and every day. And let's all blow through those 4 C's: criticizing, complaining, condemning, and comparing, with the gratitude that we feel in our hearts for life and for those around us. So thank you so much, Heidi Biever, for joining us today. It was truly a joy to have you with us. And friends, join us each Thursday, except next week, Thanksgiving Day, for these Thriving Thursday chats that run at noon East Coast US time. Thank you so much for joining us, and a happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Okay, bye-bye.
Lots of love.
bye.
Bye.